4,000 free software people show up. But I like coming to Campus Party because I get to reach out to the people that have not found free software yet. I call them the unwashed. Okay, let me see if I can. Now, how many of you do not use free software at all? No. You've never used a website. You've never sent email. Because if you did, you probably used SendMail as a mail transport. Okay? Free software is everywhere these days. And even the largest companies who claim to be closed source proprietary shops still have free software someplace. Microsoft's network stack came from BSD. So in effect, it was free software. About 6 minutes left. I'm going to tell you a story not related necessarily to free software, but it's a story that is a good story. The year was 1939, and Hitler was going across Europe. And there was a person in Austria who was Jewish and was very afraid of what was happening in Germany. So this person left Austria and went to England and actually got into the fledgling movie business in England. And then after a while, they moved to Hollywood, California in the United States. Now this person's parents, the father was a physicist, the mother was a biologist. This person was a real geek. But they tried to go to the United States government and say, can I help out in some way, technically, with the war effort? And the government kind of said, no, we have everything in control. But what was happening was that the Germans had submarines, and the submarines were devastating the British Navy. And they had torpedoes, but the torpedoes went very slowly, and they left a stream of bubbles so that the enemy ship could see them and easily dodge the torpedo. Now, they had the thought of using radio to guide the torpedo towards the enemy ship. But the problem was, if the Germans intercepted the radio signal, they could jam it and actually turn the torpedo around and actually send it back towards the ship. So this person got the idea that if you could change the frequency of the radio signal fast enough, but still coordinated between the ship and the torpedo, that you could, the Germans wouldn't be able to intercept the signal. But they had no real way of doing that. So this person was in California, and they met up with a man who used player pianos. And this man has set up a mechanism to take 16 player pianos that use rolls of paper to control the piano, and control all 16 pianos with another roll of paper, so they coordinated when each one of the pianos was supposed to play. And they got together and they came up with the idea of using the piano roll to control the radio frequencies and to coordinate it between the torpedo and the ship that launched the torpedo. And they actually got a patent on this. And they submitted the patents to the War Department and said, you could use this to make it so that the radio signal would be undetectable. But unfortunately, it was difficult to put a piano roll inside the torpedo. And so they rejected this. But they kept it on the shelf, still thinking about it. Years later, the transistor was created. And people looked at this again and said, maybe we could do this now. But it was still a little bit too hard and difficult to do it. Later than that, the integrated circuit was created. And once again, they looked at this. And now, it was technically feasible. It was technically feasible to change the radio frequency and keep it in sync. And this is what was used during the First Gulf War to launch the missiles and guide the missiles directly to the spot. And the Iraqis could not jam the radio frequency, or even detect that it was there. By this time, the two people that had made this patent were very old. In fact, one of them was dead, and the other one was living in Florida. Shortly after that, the patents had expired, and shortly after that, the government decided to declassify this method of doing this, and this became what we now call spread spectrum technology. It's a technology that's used in all cell phones. It's a technology that's used in Bluetooth. It's a technology that was used in Wi-Fi. And it all comes from that patent that was done in 1939. Now, the interesting part about that is even though the technology was patented, these two people gave it away because they said this was for the good of the nation. They never got a single penny off of this initial patent. Now, the person I'm talking about still continued to go back to the government and say, can I help with the war effort? You know, I'm a very bright person when it comes to science. No, but you can help us raise money for the war effort by selling war bonds. And this person said, okay, I'll do that. I'm in the entertainment industry. I will sell war bonds. And they were very successful at selling war bonds. As a matter of fact, they raised more money selling war bonds than any other person during World War II. Because this person, at one time, was declared to be the most beautiful woman in the world. Her name was Hetty Hopper. And that is the rest of the story.